Good evening. This is Safety Wars for Wednesday, January 21st, 2026. The other day I said 2025. That'll happen. Normally it happens sometime in March, though, which is weird. But anyway, how's everybody doing out there tonight? I hope you had a safe day. We were not on the air last night with a live show. It was pre-recorded. Just one of those things where, first day of the work week is hard. Sometimes to be here. Anyway, what are we talking about tonight? So the EPA, we're going to do a little bit of a deep dive into PM 2.5. The EPA just very nuanced, in a very nuanced way, they changed policy on this. There was an extensive article in the New York Times today on this. And I had to say they issue a policy document on one thing, and then what happens? It has to do with something totally different. And I enjoy reading articles that go behind the scenes. And if we can, we're going to be talking about some of the other EPA news out there today. So that's what we got lined up for Safety Wars, and we'll be back in a second. Hi, this is Jim from Safety Wars. Before we start the program, I want to make sure everyone understands that we often talk about OSHA and EPA citations, along with some other regulatory actions from other agencies, legal cases, and criminal activity. Everyone is innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. Proposed fines are exactly that, and they are often litigated, reduced, or vacated. We use available public records, news accounts, and press releases. We cannot warranty or guarantee the details of any of the stories we share, since we are not directly involved with these stories, at least not most of the time. Enjoy the show.
This show is brought to you by Safety FM.
Hello. Yeah, I got the sniffles a little bit today, like half of the people in the country. You got to really take care of yourself out there. So here we are. I got two cameras. We're back to two cameras. So I got two cameras set up here. The close and the further away. Pretty neat. So normally we're not involved in the stories or the things that we talk about here, but today we are. So I've been on the phone with my daughter, and there's a house around the corner from us that burned down to the ground. Reportedly, the occupant, the woman who lived there, apparently alone from what we gather, right? Elderly woman passed away. So rest in peace. Number one. Number two, use this as a reminder to check your house for fire hazards and make sure you have working smoke detectors. And on the job site, same thing in your workplace there. The second thing was at the Bayway Refinery, the Infinium division, there was a fatality on Monday where reportedly, these were all the reports that are out today, the employee fell into a vat of mineral oil, into a 6,000-gallon tank. I don't know if that was a truck mounted tank or a other type of process tank or something like that. Details will be forthcoming. That was a facility I worked in for 15 years, roughly. So 15 years I worked there, and it's a shame. Apparently, they did not release the identity of the victim, but from insiders that I've heard, they said it's somebody who you may not know, but it's someone you know from around the facility. He's a longtime employee, a contract employee. So I don't know. We'll see how that works out when that accident report becomes available. We'll share it with you here. May have to do a Freedom of Information Act request on that. We'll see. With that, so what? Like I said, Tuesday's rough sometimes, or Monday's rough. That's the first day of the week. because I'm working remotely, as everybody knows, even though for the holidays you did see me at my home studio with the nice Christmas tree behind me and, all the Simon the Seal and all those other little stuffed animals that people have gotten me over the years. And, it is what it is. We're on the road. So we're looking up for bigger and brighter, more exciting things as we go along here with 2026, with whatever goals we're setting, and we're going to meet with those. And now, PM 2.5. This debate has been going on for an awful long time, at least as long as I was in graduate school, which was in the late 90s, where you had the National Ambient Air Quality Standards. And it seems like 2-3 years ago, with all those wildfires in Canada and all the smoke coming down into the New York City area, we seem to all have gotten an education on the National Ambient Air Quality Standards. So we're going to do a share screen on here with this. So these are the National Ambient Air Quality Standards, NAQS, right? So on March of last year, Trump EPA announced its path forward on National Ambient Air Quality Standards for particulate matter to aid manufacturing small businesses. So the announcement that was made this week should not come as too big of a surprise. How they went about it is a different thing. So on March 12, 2025, U.S. EPA Administrator Lee Zeldin announced the agency is revisiting the Biden era PM 2.5 National Ambient Air Quality Standards. Those are the standards that they collect, that the air sampling that they collect mostly in real time in your neighborhood. So if you go out into your neighborhood, and there are websites out there that are dedicated to this that actually have where the location in the nearest ambient air quality standard, National Ambient Air Quality monitoring station at. And you're able to look that up online almost in real time. I think there's a little bit of a lag, but not much of a lag the last I checked on that. One of them is PM 2.5. This is the EPA's statement on this from last year, March 12, 2025. U.S. EPA Administrator Lee Zeldin announced the agency is revisiting the Biden 2.5 National Ambient Air Quality Standards, NAQS, which has raised serious concerns from states across the country and served as a major obstacle to permitting. All Americans deserve to breathe clean air. This is a quote from EPA Administrator Zeldin. While pursuing the American dream, under President Trump, we will ensure air quality standards for particulate matter are protective of human health and the environment while we unleash the golden age of American prosperity. EPA is also announcing that it will soon release guidance to increase flexibility on NAQS implementation, reforms to new source review, and direction on permitting obligations. The suite of actions advances cooperative federalism and meaning putting things back into the state's hands, right? Federalism. I know that's counterintuitive. And begins to undo red tape holding back American exceptionalism. U.S. has some of the lowest fine particulate matter levels in the world. Between 2000 and 2023, average PM 2.5 concentrations in the U.S. fell by 37%, and average PM 10, meaning particulate matter 10 microns, particulate matter 2.5, right? PM 2.5, PM 10 concentration similarly fell by 36%. This was announced in conjunction with a number of historic actions to advance President's Day One, Trump's Day One, which was 1 year ago yesterday. Executive orders empower the great American comeback. Combined, these announcements represent the greatest and most consequential day of deregulation in the history of the United States, and going on and on and on. So what is, right, and again, we could go and talk about this for months, literally, on the Clean Air Act. This is the National NACS, Powering the Great American Comeback Fact Sheet. Revisiting the reconsideration of NACS for particulate matter. Reasons for action. Concerns regulation may not be squarely grounded in statutory authority. The previous administration reconsidered the 2020 PM NACS, and EPA is evaluating the appropriateness of that reconsideration. So this is all to undo what Biden did, basically. Align the standard-setting process with statutory requirements and alleviate unnecessary burdens. The cost estimated at $7 million over the next 20 years, at least $470 million a year. Costs would be even higher because the illustrative cost estimate doesn't fully account for all the controls and emissions reductions needed to meet the standard in some places. Concerns have also been raised related to burden states with planning requirements, hinders American manufacturing with burdensome Clean Air Act permitting requirements that deter economic growth, and groups and or entities requesting the reconsideration are the states, companies, and trade associations. And that's basically it. And it mentions the executive orders and also permits and everything else here with that, right? They had different pillars, right? With that, where everybody's supposed to get along, government and the government and the come on, bring us back to the PM10. Now, going back, and it's not coming up. All right. Ooh, I hate it when this happens. Let's talk about particulate matter. All right, and they have different checklists. SIP, that's State Implementation Plan. So the EPA could go and designate the state to manage things, which happens with OSHA, about half of the time, to one part. Wow, what are the particulate matter basics? What is PM, and how does it get into the air? PM stands for particulate matter, also called particulate pollution, the term for a mixture of solid particles and liquid droplets found in air. Some particles, and if you're listening at home, you can go and check this out on the video because I have the EPA pages right in front of me here, and they should be on the video. The term for a mixture of solid particles and liquid droplets found in air. Some particles, such as dust, dirt, soot, or smoke, are large or dark enough to be seen with the naked eye. Others are so small they can be detected using an electronic microscope. Particulate pollution includes PM10, that's inhalable particles in diameters that are 10 micrometers or smaller, or microns, right, or smaller. When you get below 10 microns, things could now start to, you're able to, they bypass your body systems, they get into your lungs once you start to get below 10 microns. With that, PM 2.5 are fine inhalable particles in diameters that are generally 2.5 micrometers or smaller. And how small is that? Average human hair is 70 micrometers in diameter. I've heard 70 to 125, depending on which hair you're talking about. These particulates come in many sizes and shapes, can be made up of hundreds of different chemicals. Some are emitted directly from a source. And then you have from a non-source, right, with that, just in the ambient environment. What are the harmful effects of PEM? So they can be inhaled and cause serious health problems. Some particles less than 10 micrometers in diameter can get deep into your lungs and may even get into your bloodstream. Of these particles, less than 2.5 microns in diameter, also known as fine particles, pose the greatest risk to health. So let's talk about our old chemistry stuff, right? Warning scientific content here. Smaller particles have more surface area and have more opportunity to have a chemical reaction and impact things. So I find dust particles are much more dangerous than larger ones. Number one. Number two, they're able to penetrate deeper. Smaller the particle, the deeper it goes. So that's what they're talking about here with this. EPA regulates inhalable particles under Clean Air Act. Particles of sand and large dust which are greater than 10 microns are not really regulated by the EPA. And EPA's national and regional rules to reduce emissions of pollutants at 4 p.m. will help state and local governments meet the agency's national ambient air quality standards. You can use air quality alerts to protect yourself and others when PM reaches harmful levels. The most common one, and I'm on it every day here, ever since we had the Canadian wildfires, this has been one of the things that we have done. So let's do at home. So here we are at New City, New York. Right now, the station is about 2 miles away from my house on a farm, apple orchard. No, fruit tree orchard. I believe it's apples. I've never been there. That's sad. It's only 2 miles away from the house. But they make one hell of a quiche in their store. That's what I will say. I got gifted that by my next door neighbor. Phenomenal. Here we have air quality index at 28. And what is that air quality index? That air quality index is a huge formula that they come out with, which factors in all of the here, let's see if we can pull that up. All of the national ambient air quality standards. And this is what it comes down to. And I went over this way back in the day. I should probably look it up. But we have AQI basics for ozone and particulate pollution. Those are the big ones. So ozone is O3. And the values of the index, 0 to 50, good. 51 to 100, acceptable. And once you start to get down here into the maroon area, and the maroon area is 301 and higher, that is where we had our issues with the Canadian wildfires from a couple of years ago. 5 major air pollutants. EPA establishes an AQI for 5 major air pollutants regulated by the Clean Air Act. Each of these pollutants has a NAC. And these are the ones that we can measure in real time. Ground level ozone, particulate, which we're talking about tonight, carbon monoxide, CO, sulfur dioxide, that was an emission. If you remember back in the day with acid rain, that was because of sulfur dioxide and other, no, they call it SOx. There are other sulfur oxide compounds with that. And then you have the last one, nitrogen dioxide. The one that is not in here, and there's a 6th, is lead, because you cannot measure that in real time. You can measure all this other stuff in real time, but not lead. And if we go back to air now for this, right, you see what we have. AQI of this, and what was the primary pollutant they're concerned about is PM 2.5. And they have a link here, right, back to our regular page. So what are some of how can you reduce your exposure? If you have health impacts from dust, you have breathing problems, anything like that, they tell you don't go outside. Is essentially it. And be careful. And now you're going to say, well, that's for old people. Well, not really. We have to factor this in to our regular job sites, right? So I go out, and the reason why we track this is one of the requirements of the job project that I'm on now, that gets tracked, because in case someone has an issue like asthma or something on the site, that we're able to monitor for that. We can warn them for it, keep an eye on that person. Things that this is the advantage of having experienced managers on a job site. A younger manager probably wouldn't get that, or they'd manage this improperly. Older managers, more experienced people who've seen things, it's it's no, we have the experience with that stress managing these because we've all seen. Well, if you've been here long enough, you've seen people have issues. One of the things the government is proposing to change is the medical requirement for filtering face-to-face respirators, and now the question is, well, nobody ever has a problem with a filtering face-to-face respirator. Well, yeah, I have had one person have a some type of respiratory distress and seizures while wearing one of these things from one of these things. Right in my, I shared the story about my mother-in-law's funeral where the coffin got dropped because one of the pallbearers was in a mask in the middle of COVID up there, and dropped the coffin. It was like, you're in one of those things. What do you do with that? So let's get back to with that. And so what does this matter? So I have to go. You see me going through all this stuff here. And goes because it's since the article is on from a source here other than the government source, I don't share that. Now, let's see here. All right, so this is from the New York Times. Trump's EPA has put a value on human life, $0. The EPA has stopped estimating the dollar value of lives saved by the cost-benefit analysis for new pollution rules, which shouldn't be a surprise because they planned on doing this a year ago. Under both Democrat and Republican, the article was in today's New York Times, the 21st, and it's by Maxine Joslow. Government officials have long grappled with a question that seems like the purview of philosophers. What's the value of a human life? That's always the question. What is the value of a human life? Under both Democrat and Republican administrations, the answer has been the millions of dollars. The higher the value, the more the government has required businesses to spend on their operations to prevent a single death, also known as a statistical death. But for the first time ever at the EPA, the answer is effectively $0. Pardon me. Well, last week, the EPA stopped estimating the monetary value of lives saved when setting limits on two of the most widespread deadly air pollutants, fine particulate matter and ozone. Instead, the agency is calculating only the costs to companies for complying with pollution regulations. The Trump administration is saying literally that they put a zero value on human life. Quote, end quote. Marshall Burke, an environmental economist at Stanford University, sent an email. If your kid breathes in air pollution from a power plant or industrial source, EPA is saying that they care only so far as cleaning up that pollution would cost the emitter. And a drastic change in the way the government weighs the costs of curbing air pollution against the benefits to public health and the environment. It's a drastic change here. It could lead to looser controls on pollutants from coal-burning power plants, oil refineries, steel mills, and other industrial sites across the country, resulting in dirtier air. And it appears to shelve a powerful tool known as the value of a statistical life that agencies have used for decades in the cost-benefit analysis that justifies new regulations. The EPA has used the tool to assign a dollar value to the lives saved by clean air rules, causing the benefits of these rules to dwarf the cost by at least 30-to-1 ratio. That has allowed it to defend pollution controls that companies would otherwise challenge as too costly. So this is the basic thing with a cost-benefit analysis here. How much is it going to cost society to lose a life versus how much is going to cost the polluter to prevent that life loss with that? And no, this is the basic thing that they use, a cost-benefit analysis with that. And it goes into everything out there. You think your company doesn't come up with this? Look at what they do in a workplace safety situation. It's going to cost me X number of dollars to do whatever to protect the worker. Now, what are the chances of OSHA coming to the job site and catching us? What are the chances of us having our employees as ignorant? What are the chances of that? And what are the chances of the person actually getting hurt from that, or is it going to be traced back to me? And this kind of thinking has led to the 50,000 person a year dying because of occupational illnesses, according to the statistics. But the government doesn't like talking about that because they can only track 5,000 things that are attributable. These other things, these cancers and everything, that are statistical lives, they don't really count and it doesn't matter if it's Democrat or Republican. That doesn't matter. With that run company. You're going to say, well, liberal companies that are run by liberals think that way? Yeah, I worked with them. Believe me, I've worked with them. You mean conservative? Yeah, people they do this. Money is neither conservative or liberal with this. It's just the way it is. Richard Hirsch, an EPA spokesman, said in an email that the agency was considering the health effects of fine particulate matter in ozone, but was no longer assigning them a dollar value cost-benefit analysis. We're not putting a dollar value on those impacts right now. That does not mean EPA is ignoring or undervaluing them. Ms. Hirsch did not comment on whether the agency would stop using the value of a statistical life for all regulations beyond clean air rules. But in general, she said, saying we aren't attaching a dollar figure to health effects is like saying we aren't putting a price tag on clean air or safe drinking water. Dollars and cents don't define their worth. For the past 30 years, the EPA has pegged the value of a statistical life at about $11.7 million. Although experts have recommended increasing the value, the agency has updated the metric only to account for inflation and wage growth. Value of a statistical life is a sensitive subject in Washington. Lower values have led to outcry from public interest groups, while higher values have drawn complaints from a range of industries, including oil and gas drillers, truck drivers, and toy manufacturers. Some critics have raised moral objections to using the tool at all, saying a human life is priceless. But supporters, I tell you what, I have to give the author a lot of credit here. This is actually very balanced. She did a very good job in writing this article here. But supporters say its use has helped prevent hundreds of thousands of premature deaths from air pollution, which kills more Americans each year than vehicle crashes. The biggest driver of those deaths is fine particulate matter, or PM2.5, which refers to particles less than 2.5 microns in diameter, small enough to enter the bloodstream. Another silent killer is ozone, a smog-causing gas that forms when emissions from power plants, factories, and vehicles mix in the air on a hot, sunny day. A robust body of research has linked long-term exposure of both pollutants to premature death, as well as asthma, dementia, and heart and lung disease. Even moderate exposure to PM2.5 can damage the lungs about as much as smoking. But in a document posted online on Monday, the EPA claimed that economic benefits of reducing PM2.5 and ozone were too uncertain. The EPA said it would stop tabulating these benefits until the agency is confident enough in the modeling to properly monetize those impacts. Some regulatory experts have mixed reactions to the move. On one hand, the administration does make some valid points that EPA statements have implied a false precision in the past, said Susan Dudley, who led the White House Office of Information and Regulatory Affairs during George W. Bush's second term and now teaches at George Washington University. On the other hand, the way to rectify that is to not stop quantifying the health effects altogether. Others were less circumspect in their criticism. If the rationale is that benefits are uncertain, well, costs are uncertain too, said Alan Krupnick, a senior fellow at RFF, Resources for the Future. That's rff.org. I've been reading their stuff for 30 years. Considering costs without considering benefits is like trying to cut a piece of cloth with one blade of razors. The cut is likely going to be inaccurate and rough. Michael Greenstone, an environmental economist at the University of Chicago, said the change could result in dirtier air, undercutting the gains made since Congress strengthened the Clean Air Act in 1970. Steep reductions in PM 2.5 pollution have added 1.4 years to the average American's life expectancy since 1970, according to research from the University of Chicago's Air Quality Life Index. Clean air is one of the greatest success stories of government policy in the last half century, Dr. Greenstone said, and at the heart of the Clean Air Act is the idea that when you allow people to lead longer and healthier lives, that has value that can be measured in dollars. Dr. Greenstone and other economists say the value of the statistical life has been misinterpreted as the value the government assigns to a single person's life, and is actually the value that the government assigns to slightly reducing the risk of death for a larger group of people. To determine this value, government economists have turned to studies on the labor market, which show that workers demand higher wages before agreeing to perform jobs with greater risks of workplace fatalities. This is a phenomenally written article here on this. You can learn a lot here on how this stuff comes about on the regulation. And I know it's Jim reading the article. Yeah, it's such a good, well-written article. Why wouldn't I share it with the world here with this? And I'm going to encourage you to go back to the New York Times and read it for yourself. Say that employers must pay lumberjacks an initial $1,000 a year for perform work that generally kills 1 in 1,000 workers. It follows that most American workers would forego $1,000 a year to avoid that risk, and that 1,000 Americans would effectively forego $1 million to avoid the same risk entirely. Therefore, in this example, the value of a statistical life would be $1 million. Tweaking the tool raises thorny ethical and philosophical questions, said W. Kip Masucci, an economist at Vanderbilt University, whose research on the value of a statistical life has been cited by many agencies. Should the government place the same dollar value on everyone's life? Should rich people's lives be valued more? Should old people's lives be valued less? I'm going to tell you, I've gotten into this in my career twice with lawsuits of either I was involved with at projects I've been on where people have sued, or one personal one. And this is where it comes down to, how much is it worth here? And it's it's an interesting discussion, because people who are often low wage earners get paid out less because they're basing the payouts on the wages that you lost. I'm familiar with one case where a person was hurt at a sporting event, at a charity event, and she had she was making X number of dollars. During her recovery from her injuries, she went and got more education, got more certifications and everything else. She went back to school, got more schools, and she came back, had a higher paying job. Now that muddied the waters. Did she really lose any money? What's her earning potential and everything else? This is what gets into this. This is why I tell people, I'm aware of one case where one guy loved to work off the books, and he was pulling in $70,000 or $80,000 a year off the books, but he had a legitimate job for $36,000 a year. When he got killed at work, where do you think they went to? They went to that tax return and $36,000 a year for valuing his life. And that's what the payout was on him from his workers' comp. Yeah, it sucks. So this kind of stuff now happens in the EPA world, but who knows where this is going to go to with this? I don't know. The API, American Petroleum Institute, a trade group for major oil and gas companies. API in the safety world issues a lot of safety standards, has urged the EPA to consider using a lower value for older people. In a 2018 public comment, the group wrote that most of the lives saved by stronger ozone standards would be among the elderly populations. not individuals in their highest earning years. Again, this has broad-based implications here. Look at during where did this come about? One huge thing. Ground Zero in New York, 2001, September 11th. We couldn't shut the whole economy down for that. So, in the financial capital of the country, the air is safe. It's no problem. The air is safe. Former governor in New Jersey, that EPA administrator, said that. She eventually apologized, a little too late. But what ended up happening was that was a clear-cut example. So now we have north of 35,000 people impacted by that decision because we had to get everybody back up and running. That was the official policy of the United States government. So this stuff does matter. Scott Lauerman, a spokesman for the Institute, the API, that is, said in email that the group was still reviewing the EPA's new approach, but that it appreciated the agency's focus on sound science. Right? 2003, during George Bush's first term, the White House proposed the EPA uses a 37% lower value of statistical life for people older than 70. But the backlash was intense. Older Americans and environmentalists protested what they called a senior death discount at the EPA hearings. The AARP, a nonprofit group that advocates on behalf of older Americans, ran ads featuring an older woman with a 37% off tag. Yeah, I remember that. But let's recall AARP also endorsed some stuff that was harmful for seniors also. Didn't pan out so well for them and everybody else. But that's a story for another day. The Bush administration ultimately abandoned the idea, and the environmental critics won the PR battle, said John D. Graham, who led the White House Office of Information and Regulatory Affairs at the time, but now teaches at Indiana University in Bloomington. My students tell me I should have started by pushing a premium on the value of saving the lives of children, since they have so many high-quality years of life ahead of them, Dr. Graham said in his email. In hindsight, that might have been a better approach. Dr. Viscusi said that if other agencies follow so that's your PR. Jody Fisher, if you're listening, right? That's PR, right? With that. Dr. Viscusi said that if other agencies follow the EPA's latest approach, they will leave Americans more vulnerable to a range of threats to their lives and livelihoods, whether it's highway safety, job safety, or consumer product safety. The biggest benefits of regulations are from saving lives, he said. Saving lives is made irrelevant. It would undermine the justification of all forms of protective policies. Now, why did we go into? We read the whole article deep dive. Mark this day and mark this article, and this is the document that they're all referring to here. Was this one, and let me share. Economic impact analysis for the new source performance standards review of stationary combustion turbines. Pretty boring. That's a pretty boring title there. Final rule. And thank God that there's people out there like us on this program that's actually reading this stuff that comes out. So, great job to Maxine Joslo. I think that's how you pronounce it. Right? Great job. That's all I have to say. Very nice article here for this. So, who is this Maxine Joslo? She writes about how governments address climate change. I'm based in Washington, where I'm frequently visiting agencies like the EPA and the Interior Department. I'm especially interested in covering how climate policies affect people across the country. And before the New York Times, she worked for another newspaper and helped launch a daily climate newsletter, and then served as the newspaper's lead climate policy reporter. She worked for E&E, an environmental publication owned by Politico. So she's acknowledging she's on the left, and she acknowledges that, right, with this. And I'm going to say, let me write a note to her here and say, you wrote a phenomenal article, and I covered it tonight on my show. And we need more people writing articles like this rather than little tiny snippets, little tiny sound bites, little tiny things that are meant to manipulate and leap with your mind. We need more people like this doing this. And thank you very much for publishing this sort of thing. And we're going to go now to our much-awaited commercial break.
Safety Wars is streaming now.
safetyfm.com.
From the front lines of the safety war, it's Safety Wars, with your host, Jim Posel on Safety FM. Get ready to face the harsh reality.
Have you listened or watched the Safety War show? It does stream live on the radio and on the streamer-emers that we have. So if you have not taken a listen to Jim Posel and what the hell he's doing every evening with Safety Wars, I would strongly encourage you to take a view or take a listen, whichever option is available for you, and take a listen to what the hell he has going on. It will take some deep dives and some information that you might be interested in.
In an unpredictable world, one voice rises above the chaos. Meet Jim Posel, a seasoned safety expert who's navigated through some of the most dangerous scenarios, from anthrax, explosive cleanups, disasters, and numerous environmental cleanups, and lived to tell the tale. Now he's bringing his wealth of knowledge, insights, and experiences to you through Safety Wars. From workplace hazards to the hidden dangers in your own home, Jim covers it all with his engaging storytelling. Safety Wars isn't just a podcast, it's your guide to a safer world. Join Jim Posel and become part of the Safety Wars revolution. Available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts and videos. Safety Wars. Your safety is our mission.
This is gonna blow your mind. There's a new daytime talk show on your local cable access station. What happens when safety, scandal, and heartbreak collide? Welcome to Safety Wars, the talk show. Today's episode is a doozy. Imagine confronting your unsafe supervisor who just happens to be your ex-wife's new hubby. Talk about a powder keg. But wait, there's more. We've got an exclusive interview with a corporate exec who's taken out life insurance policies on his riskiest workers, hoping to cash in on a deadly mishap. Yup, you heard that right. It's a real-life plot twist you can't make up. Tune in as Jim Posel, CSP, our very own Jerry Springer of Safety, dives deep into this explosive confrontation. Sparks will fly and secrets will be exposed. Catch the full episode on Safety Wars on YouTube and your favorite podcast platform. Don't miss out on the drama that could save your life. Like and share now, and stay safe, folks.
So this is what we're going to do. We are going... OSHA recordables, catastrophic losses, environmental disasters. You want answers? So do I. This is Jim Posel with Safety Wars.
That's my daddy!
So I'm going to conclude the program right here on a high note. Where if you're on Safety FM, we're going to have some pre-recorded stuff. And I will see you tomorrow, God willing. And we'll talk then. So for Safety Wars and Safety FM Network, this is Jim Posel. Good night.
The views and opinions expressed on this podcast are those of the host and its guest and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of the company. Examples of analysis discussed within this podcast are only examples. They should not be utilized in the real world as the only solution available, as they are based only on very limited and dated open source information. Assumptions made within this analysis are not reflective of the position of the company. No part of this podcast may be reproduced, stored in a retrieval system, or transmitted in any form or by any means, mechanical, electronic, recording, or otherwise, without prior written permission of the creator of the podcast, Jay Allen.